As I sat at my cluttered desk, surrounded by the comforting chaos of my books on the paranormal, the weight of the world felt oddly lighter. The dim light from my desk lamp flickered slightly, casting shadows that danced across the pages of my worn notebooks, filled with scrawled notes from previous investigations. My focus was broken when an envelope slid into view, its presence distinct among the clutter. The paper was yellowed, the handwriting inside a shaky scrawl that hinted at desperation. I carefully peeled the envelope open, my heart pounding with a mix of curiosity and unease. The letter spoke of the Thompson family, a local family tormented by a malevolent spirit that had taken hold of their young daughter. The words spilled out like a haunting plea, detailing the family's desperate attempts to rid themselves of the darkness that had invaded their home. It mentioned an abandoned chapel nearby, a place where shadows whispered and darkness thrived. The more I read, the more a chill crept up my spine. "Sarah, we're reaching out to you because we've heard of your work," the letter read. "Our daughter is not herself anymore. Please, we need help." I felt a rush of sympathy for the Thompsons, but alongside it, an irresistible pull of intrigue. Ghosts and paranormal entities were my passion, but this case had an urgency that struck a deeper chord within me. The chapel, with its dark history and whispered rumors, beckoned me like a moth to a flame. "Looks like I have a new adventure," I murmured to myself, glancing at the cluttered bookshelves. They seemed to nod in agreement, their spines filled with tales of the supernatural, each one a reminder of the mysteries that still awaited. After gathering my equipment, EMF meter, voice recorder, and a trusty flashlight, I set off, the sun hanging low in the sky, casting long shadows that stretched across the road. The drive was quiet, save for the hum of the engine and the rustle of leaves in the soft breeze. As I approached the chapel, the trees thickened, their gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. When I finally arrived at the chapel, I was struck by its eerie beauty. The structure stood defiantly against the encroaching forest, its stone walls weathered and worn by time. Vines crept up the sides, and wildflowers pushed through the cracks in the stone, as if nature was attempting to reclaim what was once a place of worship. I parked my car and stepped out, feeling a shiver of apprehension. As I approached the heavy wooden door, I hesitated, sensing the weight of the air pressing down on me. With a deep breath, I pushed the door open, and the hinges groaned like a lamenting spirit. Inside, the dim light revealed a sanctuary long abandoned, dust motes swirling in the air like lost souls. The atmosphere was thick and heavy, almost suffocating, and I felt an instinctual urge to recoil. "Okay, Sarah, just breathe," I whispered to myself, setting my equipment on the altar. I could feel the chapel watching me, waiting. I closed my eyes and recited a protective prayer, my voice barely above a whisper. The sound echoed off the walls, mixing with the silence that enveloped the space. But then, as if in response to my invocation, I heard it, faint, almost imperceptible at first. "Sarah," the whisper seemed to curl around me, pulling me deeper into the shadows. I spun around, my heart racing, but there was no one there, just the silence, thick and oppressive. "Hello," I called out, my voice trembling as it bounced off the stone walls. The whispers grew louder, a chorus of ghostly voices intertwining, calling my name over and over again. My skin prickled with unease, but I steeled myself, determined to continue my investigation. "Show yourself," I commanded, my voice firm despite the fear clawing at my throat. The chapel responded with a chilling stillness, the air crackling with an energy I could not see but felt in every fiber of my being. I took a step forward, my mind racing with thoughts of the Thompsons and their daughter, the urgency of their plea resonating within me. Whatever haunted this place was waiting for someone. But what would it do if I didn't have the answers it sought? With every heartbeat, I felt the shadows of the chapel drawing closer, and I realized that I was not just here to investigate. I was about to unravel a mystery steeped in darkness, one that could change everything I thought I knew about the unknown. As I knelt before the altar, the flickering candlelight danced across the dust-laden surfaces, casting long shadows that seemed to reach out towards me. My heart raced as I carefully pried open the old, wooden box that had been hidden behind the altar. Inside, I found an ancient leather-bound journal, its once vibrant cover now dull and cracked with age. I could hardly contain my excitement as I opened it, revealing pages filled with meticulous handwriting, each entry detailing a series of rituals that were performed in this very chapel decades ago. "What have you seen, old friend?" I murmured to myself, feeling a cold shiver run down my spine. The ink was faded in places, but the words were clear enough, summoning dark entities, sacrifices made in the dead of night, and tragic fates that befell those who dared to delve too deeply into the darkness. I could feel the weight of the history pressing down on me. "Sarah," the whisper came from the shadows, a soft yet urgent voice that sent chills racing through me. I glanced up, half expecting to see someone behind me, but the chapel remained empty. My pulse quickened. "Is anyone there?" I called into the stillness, my voice echoing back to me, swallowed by the oppressive silence that enveloped the chapel. I turned back to the journal, determined to uncover more. As I read, I came across an entry that detailed a particularly horrifying ritual, one that involved a binding spell meant to trap a malevolent spirit. The last line sent a jolt through me. "The entity hungers for faith, and those who believe are the key to its freedom." My mind raced. Was this what was happening to the Thompson girl? Had she unwittingly become a vessel for this entity's dark desires? Suddenly, the temperature dropped sharply, and I could see my breath misting in the air. "No, not now," I whispered, panic rising within me. The whispers returned, louder this time, almost pleading, as if they were begging me to leave. I shook my head, pushing the fear aside. I had to document this. I had to understand what I was dealing with. I set up my camera, positioning it to capture any supernatural phenomena that might occur. I felt the air grow thicker, charged with a palpable energy that made my skin tingle. "Show me what you've got," I challenged, though my voice wavered slightly. The darkness seemed to swirl around me, threatening to envelop my very being. Then, from the back of the chapel, a loud crash echoed through the silence. My heart leapt into my throat. "What was that?" I gasped, adrenaline surging through me. I grabbed my flashlight and headed towards the source of the sound, my pulse pounding in my ears. With each step, the air felt heavier, as though the very walls were pressing in on me. As I reached the back, I froze. There, etched into the floor, was a rusted pentagram surrounded by dark stains and remnants of burnt candles. The sight sent waves of dread crashing over me. I knelt down to examine it more closely, the journal still clutched in my hand. "This is where it all happened," I whispered, tracing the outlines of the pentagram with my finger. "This is where they summoned it." "Sarah," the voice was back, now a whispering chorus echoing around me. "You must leave." It was a cacophony of warnings, the sound of many voices layered over one another, and I could feel their urgency. I turned around slowly, my heart racing. "Who are you?" I demanded, though I already knew the answer. "We were once like you," one voice said, laden with sorrow. "We came seeking truth, believing we could control the darkness. But it consumed us." I stumbled back, my mind racing. "No, I need to understand. I need to help the girl." I shouted into the emptiness, my voice trembling as the whispers grew louder, more frantic. "Help? There is no help here," the voices cried in unison. "Only despair." I gripped the journal tightly, feeling its rough edges dig into my palms. I was out of my depth, but I couldn't turn back now. The darkness was alive in this place, and it was hungry. I needed to know what I was up against. I couldn't let it win. As I stood there, surrounded by the echoes of the past, it became clear that the chapel held more than just the remnants of its rituals. It held the very essence of evil itself, waiting for someone with enough faith to unwittingly set it free. I steadied my breath, my heart racing as I prepared for the seance. The air in the chapel felt thick, almost alive, as if it were breathing along with me. I set my camera on a tripod, hoping to capture any signs of the supernatural. The flickering candlelight danced on the walls, casting eerie shadows that seemed to shift and sway, and I couldn't help but feel the weight of the chapel's dark history pressing down on me. "All right, let's do this," I murmured to myself, my voice barely above a whisper. I took a seat in the center of the chapel, arranging my surroundings with care. The old wooden pews creaked under the slightest movement, adding to the unease that enveloped me. I closed my eyes, centering my thoughts, and began to recite the protective prayer I always used in situations like this. As I spoke the words, the whispers began again, but this time they were louder, more insistent. They curled around my consciousness, each syllable wrapping tighter around me like a vine. I felt a shiver race down my spine, and the hairs on my arms stood on end. Panic threatened to overtake me, but I pushed it aside. I was here to help, to uncover the truth. Then, suddenly, I felt a cold hand grasping my shoulder. My eyes flew open, and I spun around, expecting to see someone standing behind me. But the chapel remained empty, the shadows stretching toward me like dark fingers, taunting my growing dread. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice trembling. "Show yourself." The whispers intensified, swirling around me like a tempest of sound. It was as if the chapel itself were alive, urging me to dig deeper, to confront whatever spirit lingered within these walls. "I know you're here." I pressed on, my voice stronger now. "I want to help you." The air grew colder still, and I could see my breath misting before me. I felt compelled to continue, to push through the fear that clawed at my insides. "Please, reveal yourself," I implored, my heart pounding in my chest. "What do you want?" Then, as if in response to my plea, the shadows began to coalesce before me. A figure emerged, its outline dark and indistinct. My breath caught in my throat as I locked eyes with the apparition. Its gaze pierced through me, filled with an anguish that seemed to echo from another time. "Beware," it rasped, its voice like gravel crunching beneath heavy boots. "You tread on dangerous ground." "What do you mean? What danger?" I stammered, my heart racing. I felt a mix of fear and determination. I had come here to help, and now I was faced with something far more daunting than I had anticipated. "Leave this place," the entity warned, its voice a low growl. "You do not understand what you are meddling with. The darkness here is not what it seems." I swallowed hard, my mind racing. The shadows danced around the figure, and I could feel the weight of its sorrow. "But I can't leave," I replied, my voice steady despite the fear clawing at my insides. "There's a family suffering, a little girl. I have to know how to help her." The figure seemed to waver, its form flickering like a candle flame in a draft. "You wish to help her, but you cannot save what is already lost. The darkness seeks a vessel, and you may become that vessel." I shook my head, hardly able to process the implications of its words. "No, I won't let that happen. I have faith. I can drive it away." The entity's eyes narrowed, a flicker of something like amusement passing over its face. "Faith? Your faith is a beacon, yes, but it also draws the darkness closer. It hungers, and you will feed it." I felt the chill of its words seep into my very bones. "I'm not afraid of you," I declared, though my voice wavered. "I came here to confront whatever evil lurks in this chapel. I won't let it take anyone else." The figure's expression shifted, a mixture of sorrow and something darker passing over its features. "You think you can face what you don't understand? You are merely a pawn in this game, Sarah Miller." I recoiled, the weight of its words crashing over me like a wave. "No, I refuse to believe that," I shouted, my voice echoing back to me in the empty chapel. "I will not be a pawn. I will fight." The shadows around the figure began to swirl violently, and I felt the temperature drop further. My instincts screamed at me to run, to escape before it was too late. But I couldn't back down now. I needed to know the truth, no matter the cost. "Tell me what I need to know," I demanded, my voice rising above the chaos. "Help me help her." But the entity only stared back, its gaze filled with a torment that seemed to transcend time. As the shadows danced wildly, I felt a sudden surge of energy in the air, a warning that something wicked was watching, waiting for my next move. I sat alone in the dim light of the chapel, the weight of the shadows pressing down on me like a shroud. The air was thick, and my heart raced as I tried to process the warning from the entity. It had been a chilling experience, feeling its cold grip on my shoulder, the whisper of its voice echoing in my mind. I needed to understand what it meant, what danger awaited me if I continued my investigation. With a determined spirit, I pulled out my laptop, the flickering screen casting a small pool of light around me. I had to dig deeper into the chapel's history. I opened several tabs, searching for any information I could find about the cult that once gathered here. My fingers flew across the keyboard, and I stumbled upon old newspaper articles detailing the strange disappearances in the town. Cult activity on the rise, one headline read. My stomach twisted as I read about the local families that had vanished without a trace. Their names faded into obscurity. As I read, a sense of foreboding washed over me. The articles painted a picture of a community gripped by fear, whispers of dark rituals echoing through the streets. I could almost hear the hushed tones of the townsfolk, the furtive glances exchanged in the shadows. It became clear that the chapel was not just a relic of the past. It was a sanctuary for something malevolent, something waiting, and it was powerful. I leaned back in my chair, my mind racing. The entity had been trapped here for decades, perhaps centuries, and it was waiting for someone like me, someone with a pure heart. But what did that even mean? Could I really help it? A part of me felt a deep sense of compassion for the spirit, trapped in a cycle of torment, but another part screamed at me to run. My thoughts were interrupted by the sudden flicker of the light, and I felt a chill run down my spine. Get it together, Sarah, I muttered to myself, shaking off the anxiety. I needed clarity. I had to confront the truth of this situation. I reached for my phone and dialed the Thompson family. Hello? The mother's voice trembled on the other end. Mrs. Thompson, it's Sarah Miller. I'm at the chapel now, and I need to understand what your daughter is experiencing. A pause followed, thick with hesitation. You shouldn't be there, Sarah. That place, it's not safe. We just want to forget it. But your daughter needs help, I insisted, trying to keep my voice steady. Can you describe what she's been going through? It started with her talking to someone that wasn't there, she said, her voice cracking. Then she began to change. She whispers things that terrify me. I feel like she's not my little girl anymore. My heart sank. Has she mentioned anything about the chapel? Just a name, Mrs. Thompson whispered. Mara. She keeps saying that name. Mara. I repeated, letting the name roll off my tongue as if it were a spell. I need to understand more about this entity. If I can connect with your daughter, maybe I can help her. Be careful, she warned. Mara is not just a name. It's a warning. I hung up, my resolve strengthening. I couldn't turn back now. I had come too far. I needed to confront whatever waited for me in this chapel. As I gathered my equipment, my mind flooded with questions. Was Mara the entity that haunted this place? Or was she something else entirely? I stepped back into the cold shadows of the chapel, the air crackling with a palpable energy. My heart raced as I approached the altar, the remnants of past rituals etched into the floor. The faint whispers returned, swirling around me like a soft breeze, beckoning me to listen. Why are you here, Sarah? The whispers seemed to ask. Do you truly believe you can save her? I took a deep breath, squaring my shoulders. I have faith, I replied, my voice firm, and I will not let fear dictate my actions. As I prepared myself for the confrontation, I felt a strange sense of purpose. I was here to help the Thompson girl, to break the cycle of torment that had ensnared her. I closed my eyes, centering myself, and reached out with my spirit, willing to connect with whatever awaited me in this dark sanctuary. But a gnawing doubt crept in. Was I ready for what I might find? Would my faith be enough to confront the darkness that lurked in the chapel's depths? The answers eluded me, but one thing was clear. I was committed to this path, no matter the cost. The whispers grew louder, wrapping around me like a shroud, and I took a step forward into the unknown. As I stood before the altar, the air around me crackled with an unnerving energy. The flickering light of the candles danced in rhythm with my quickening heartbeat, casting ominous shadows on the chapel's crumbling stone walls. I clutched my rosary tightly, reciting prayers that I hoped would offer protection. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, I murmured, my voice almost drowned out by the oppressive silence that filled the chapel. The whispers, which had become a haunting melody in my mind, began to swell again, rising in urgency, as if they were urging me to persist. "Show yourself," I called out, my voice steady, but my insides churning with fear. "If there is a spirit here, I invite you to reveal yourself. Y come in peace." The shadows surrounding me seemed to pulse, swirling around like a tempest, and I felt a chill creep down my spine as a low, guttural growl reverberated through the air. Suddenly, the ground beneath me trembled violently, sending a wave of dread crashing over me. "What is happening?" I gasped, struggling to maintain my footing. The roar that filled the chapel was deafening, a sound that seemed to echo from the very depths of hell itself. I clamped my hands over my ears, but the noise penetrated deep within my skull, vibrating through my bones. The shadows coalesced into a figure, grotesque and monstrous, its form a twisted amalgamation of darkness and despair. "Sarah Miller," it intoned, its voice a sinister whisper that slithered through the air. "You dare to summon me?" My heart raced as I struggled to meet its gaze, a pair of burning eyes filled with anguish and fury locking onto mine. The entity's presence was suffocating, a palpable weight that pressed down on me, urging me to submit. "I am here to help," I stammered, though my voice quivered with uncertainty. "I know you are suffering. I can free you." The creature laughed, a sound that sent chills racing down my spine. It was a cruel, mocking sound that echoed through the chapel, filling every corner with despair. "Free me," it echoed back, its tone dripping with disdain. "You think you can save me? I've been waiting for someone like you. Someone with faith so strong it practically radiates. You, Sarah, are the perfect vessel." The realization hit me like a slap in the face. The letters, the pleas from the Thompson family, it was all part of its twisted game. "You're lying. The girl, she needs help," I shouted, desperation lacing my words. "You can't use her like this." The entity's laughter stopped abruptly, and it leaned closer, its face contorting into an expression that was both sorrowful and menacing. "Oh, but she is merely a pawn, a means to an end. You are the one I need. Your faith can set me free or bind you to me forever." I felt a surge of anger rise within me. "No, I won't let you manipulate me." I took a step back, but the shadows surged forward, encasing me in darkness. "I won't let you take another innocent life." I could feel the weight of its influence pressing against my will, and I stumbled, my resolve wavering. "Do you not understand, Sarah? You are drawn to me. Your faith is a beacon, and I am the darkness that answers." The air around me thickened, and I could feel the tendrils of despair wrapping tighter around my heart. "Offer me your faith, and I shall grant you power beyond your wildest dreams." In that moment of desperation, I reached deep within myself for the strength I had always relied upon. "I will not be your vessel," I cried, my voice breaking through the oppressive atmosphere. "I stand for the light, and I will not let you win." The entity hesitated, caught in the crossfire of its own desires. For a brief second, I saw a flicker of doubt in its burning eyes. "You think you can resist me?" it hissed, its voice dripping with venom. With my heart pounding, I extended my hands, palms open, as if to offer my faith as a lifeline. "I believe in the power of light and love. I will not give you my faith, but I will pray for your release from this torment." The shadows recoiled momentarily, and I felt a rush of warmth surge through me, igniting a spark of hope in the darkness. But I knew the struggle was far from over. The entity's presence loomed larger, and I braced myself for the battle that was only just beginning, caught in a web of faith and darkness, my fate intertwined with the very entity I sought to confront. As I stood there, trembling in the dim light of the chapel, the air thickened with an oppressive energy. The entity before me, a swirling mass of darkness, shifted and pulsed. Just as I felt my faith was piercing through the shroud of despair, the entity's voice, deeper and more resonant than I had ever anticipated, cut through the air like a knife. "You think you can save me?" It hissed, its tone mocking yet laced with a sinister allure. "I was never trapped, Sarah. I've been waiting for someone like you." My heart raced, my thoughts spiraling as I tried to comprehend its words. "What do you mean?" I stammered, feeling the walls of the chapel close in on me. You lured me here?" "Yes," it replied, a twisted smile forming in the shadows of its form. "Those letters you received, the visions you experienced, they were all part of my design. I needed your faith, your conviction, to become stronger." The revelation hit me like a cold wave, washing away the remnants of my courage. The Thompson girl, the innocent child I had hoped to save, was nothing more than a pawn in this malevolent game. I could almost hear the whispers of the previous victims echoing in my ears. Those who had been trapped in this hell, urging me to flee, to escape while I still could. "No!" I shouted, a surge of defiance igniting within me. "I won't let you use me. I won't be part of your wicked plans." The entity's laughter reverberated through the chapel, a sound that sent chills coursing down my spine. "You were already part of my plans, Sarah. The moment you stepped over that threshold, you became mine." It lunged towards me, a dark wave of energy that surged with palpable hunger. I stumbled backward, adrenaline flooding my system. The chapel, once a place of haunted beauty, now felt like a prison. "Get back!" I screamed, clutching onto whatever remnants of faith I could muster. "I won't let you take me." In that moment, I remembered my own power, the belief that had driven me to this forsaken place. I forced myself to stand, reciting the protective prayers I had learned over the years. "In the name of light, I command you to depart," I cried, my voice trembling yet resolute. The ground shook violently, and I felt the air crackle with energy as the entity hesitated, caught in a moment of indecision. Yet it was only for a fleeting second. The darkness roared, and I felt a grip around my throat, cold and suffocating. "You can never escape what you believe," it whispered, its breath chilling me to the bone. With a desperate surge of strength, I broke free from its grasp. My heart pounded as I dashed towards the chapel's exit, the shadows clawing at my back. I could hear the entity's laughter trailing behind me, echoing off the walls like a dark symphony. "You think you can run, Sarah? You are part of me now." I burst through the heavy doors, stumbling into the cool night air. The forest loomed around me, the branches twisting like skeletal fingers. Panting, I pressed my back against the chapel's outer wall, trying to catch my breath. The moonlight bathed the clearing in an ethereal glow, but it did little to ease the terror coursing through my veins. As I gazed back at the chapel, I felt the weight of the entity's gaze upon me, a sinister promise lingering in the air. It was far from over. I had escaped the chapel, but I could feel its presence gnawing at the edges of my mind, a dark reminder that I was now marked. I had to warn the Thompsons, to share what I had uncovered. But deep down, I understood that this was only the beginning. The battle between light and darkness had taken on a new form, and I was now a reluctant player in a game far more intricate than I had ever imagined. With renewed determination, I turned away from the chapel and plunged into the forest, the whispers of its previous victims echoing in my mind. I wouldn't let their suffering be in vain. I would find a way to fight back. The darkness may have marked me, but I would not let it consume me. If you like the supernatural story, subscribe, like and comment, and see the next supernatural horror story.